But the other part of that too that's not even mentioned is like the artists that are getting ripped off by AI, where they are using their intellectual property without their permission and, you know, perpetuating that and spreading it across the web, and people, you know, using AI or using this artist's work without even realizing that they're essentially ripping off another artist's work. And so it turns into this really gray area where it's like, yes, it is helpful, but it's also incredibly damaging. Yeah.
From the Sarah Smiles Network, I'm Sarah Smiles, and this is the Consider the Source podcast, a show about women who've built ideas, movements, and careers by questioning the status quo and challenging norms.
I've been watching your skits on TikTok, which are hilarious, so glad to finally meet the celebrity behind the name. But yeah.
Celebrity, super funny.
I mean, you kind of are
thank
like
you so
a
much
local
for talking
celeb.
with me. Local, yeah, I'll take it. Got a shout out to my neighbor Pete too, who owns Power Cone. He always has wild content, so no shortage of ideas.
I love
there.
that. That's awesome. So I'd love for you to give like a quick intro as to who you are and how you got your business started and why you love plants.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many great questions. So I started my business back in, I think, 2021. Originally, the idea was that I wanted to create a space where artists, artisans, and small businesses could come together and sell their products in a way that wasn't, frankly, predatory. A lot of like pop-up markets and online forums, like even Etsy, take huge cuts in, you know, and have astronomical charges, and that can make it really difficult for small businesses to grow. And a lot of our vendors that we work with, they don't have the time, energy, and resources to build their business. You know, they have full-time jobs, or they're in school, or they're single, or just, you know, doing parent things. And so they don't have the time to build that resource. And there's so much untapped talent out there in the small business world that doesn't get the recognition it deserves simply because they don't have the resources. So that's where we step in and we help them, you know, get their products on our shelves. We help them build their business, help them with their marketing, just help get the name out there and get their products in front of people who want to support local.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. I have recently, I guess not so recently, but more recently been able to describe my sentiment towards capitalism, specifically in like the giant monopolies that exist with this system. And it just makes me sick to my stomach to see like a lack of, number one, quality in the things that we're buying nowadays, because we don't know who we're buying it from anymore. And it also just makes me so frustrated because you think about all of these amazing cultures, and like when you think of going to visit a place, you think of how amazing that culture is. And why is it amazing? Because of small businesses, because there is a community feel. And I feel like that is
because of the local creators, because of the hands making these products. And I think so much of it is like a lost art to manufacturing and capitalism. Totally
100%.
agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. And it honestly has made me so frustrated of just being like, what do we even provide as like a culture in Denver aside from mountains? Like, yeah, you can come to the mountains, they're great, they're amazing, but like what else do we provide? Like when you want to have someone come and visit you, you're like, oh well, where do we go? And you're like, well, there's a Starbucks down the street. Like what? Why?
Totally. And that money, it just gets funneled to billionaires and large corporations. It doesn't really directly funnel to the people in the community. Whereas, you know, our small business, we work directly with these small vendors and small businesses. And so when you make a purchase, it directly goes to them. Like it is helping to support them, their business, helping them build their business, helping them support their families and their livelihood, especially because everything is so expensive all the time. You know, it's exhausting to be constantly doing the side hustle and not really getting anywhere with it or not really having any like real progress, you know? And so I'm glad that we can help these businesses, like not only provide additional income for them and help get the word out there to people that, they still exist.
Yeah.
Small vendors, they still exist. They're still out there. We don't have to get everything through Amazon. You can support your local people, your local businesses, and know that your money is going towards the community rather than padding the pockets of the people at the top.
And that was always such an interesting thing to me, especially when I was in like high school / middle school, in the realm of like padding billionaires' pockets. And I remember we were taking an Uber from like the New Orleans airport into like the city, because that's where my cousin was living, and the Uber driver was like, I actually do this like full time, here's my business card if you want to call me outside of Uber. And I was like, that's weird, like why would we do that? And then I realized like as I've gotten older why you do that, because you actually get paid a fair wage, and majority of the time you can reduce the cost of what the actual fare is just because you're not having to pay a portion of it to Uber or Lyft or whoever you're doing your rideshare with, which is the same for creators and small businesses and small shops. Like going to Etsy, like what you said, is like sort of a predatory environment in the sense that Etsy then feeds and feasts off of the small creators that exist on there.
Totally. And small batch creators are responsible for so much of the cost, like the shipping, not only like the materials to actually make their products, but then like the shipping and the, marketing and like continuing to post new products on Etsy. And then they also have a cut taken from them from Etsy for being able to use their platform. So at the end of the day, a lot of small businesses on Etsy end up either losing money because their products are on Etsy, or they just aren't able to actually grow because of the exuberant fees that are being taken out constantly and the costs associated with, being on Etsy, which, is great in a sense that like it does connect people with small batch vendors and like you're able to, buy handmade products, but it doesn't go far enough, in my opinion, in terms of supporting the artists on the platform.
Yeah. So I imagine, based on your sentiment towards Etsy, that you likely had an Etsy storefront at one point.
We did. So it's funny because the idea originally was always to create this space for small batch creators. And then I had a business advisor at the time who essentially advised me to sign up to be a small batch vendor as a way to network with other small businesses, and also as a way to learn more about the pain points of being a small business and like a pop-up at farmers markets, events, stuff like that. So we did, and I didn't have a product at the time because that wasn't really the initial goal.
Right.
But I had gotten really into plant propagating over COVID. And so I had a bunch of plants, and I was like, well, I can bring these with me and like probably won't sell anything, but like fair enough, I'll give it a try. And to my surprise, we sold out our first event. And so, I know, it was so crazy. I was shocked, but we basically took that money and put it towards buying more plants. And then we sold out again, and then we sold out again. And that just kind of continued. And it was great, but at the same time, I also was like, okay, well, like maybe, like I know people buy plants on Etsy all the time. Like I have bought plants off of Etsy. It's great for, honestly, it's great for rare, rarities.
I believe it.
So I was like, I'll give this a try. But like the amount of work, time, and effort that was put into just maintaining the Etsy shop, in addition to the events that we were doing every weekend, in addition to the 9-to-5 job that I was working, in addition to this, to pay the bills, we didn't see enough sales to make it worth the time, honestly. And so it was helpful because I was able to learn more about the behind the scenes of the experience of working with Etsy, and why so many people give up, honestly. Like so many small businesses just give up because of all of the hurdles that you have to jump through and all of the fees and the baggage that comes with just trying to promote your business.
So like you're talking about all this forward momentum that you're getting at this farmer's market. How did that feel stifled when you moved to Etsy? Because obviously you have to go and buy all of the plants when you're at the farmer's market as well, but you're still supplying everything for the farmer's market. So how does that translate over to Etsy in the sense of, is it just higher demand?
I think I think part of it is like the community aspect of it. So like one thing I really loved about the markets was that we got face-to-face interaction with the customers. We got to talk to them about like what they liked, what they didn't like. We got to have that feedback from them, and continue to build our brand and name recognition just through, you know, repeat people coming to these events that we were working and getting to know us. Whereas Etsy, it's not really the same in the sense that like there isn't that face-to-face interaction with customers. It's all, you know, virtual. It's all behind a computer screen. So it can be confusing because, you know, we would put products up that sell really well at our markets and we would put up the same products on Etsy and there would be no traction. And so, but without the additional feedback of like, I like this, I don't like this, stock more of this, don't stock this. There's no feedback there. And so I think especially if I had just started there, for example, and was like, I'm just going to put my stuff up on Etsy and see what happens. Like there's success stories all the time of like, you know, brands blowing up on Etsy. But I think it's also kind of similar to TikTok where it's like, it happens, but also normally you get the success through, you know, targeted, consistent posting and building your audience. That way it's not just kind of a like, oh, I'll upload things and like I'll have a bunch of sales and I'll be able to like quit my job and
that's the goal.
Do this full time like that. I think there's this perception of that, but like if we had started there, for example, like I don't know if our business would be where we are today simply because it would be so discouraging to put things out there and have, you know, limited, if not no response and no feedback from our customers apart from like, you know, reviews, which sometimes those are like negative reviews too. And then internalizing that as a small business owner too, where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard to make this happen. And, you know, the reviews, especially on online platforms, can be really, really hard for small businesses, especially when you're dealing with like weather or shipping delays or things that are completely outside of your control.
And it's not like they're coming from like a massive factory where you're just able to get things off the shelf and get things going. Like it's a small business. And I feel like that's oftentimes, I feel like Amazon ruined what people like anticipate and how
the expectation. Like I'm getting this package in 3 business days or sooner, like the next day. Now it's even worse. It's like overnight shipping.
Which like, how do small businesses, how are you supposed to compete with that?
How do you compete? And then additionally, like Amazon is a huge corporation. Like they can eat those shipping costs and it doesn't really affect their bottom line too much. Whereas small business owners, if you're, you know, you're the one who's paying for the shipping because there is that expectation now of free 3 to 5 day shipping. So you're the one who's paying for that out of your pocket and you're the one who's doing often, you know, it's the joke of like the business owner with like many hats. You know? You're the shipping, you're the receiving, you're the producer, you're the marketing person, you're, you know, the one who's fulfilling orders, you're the customer service rep, you're the bookkeeper, you're all of it. And so unlike Amazon where they have, you know, departments dedicated to these things. It's one person normally in their house, you know, packaging your item that you ordered and driving it to the post office or UPS, dropping it off, you know, and then like fulfilling more orders the next day. And then like, not to mention, like I mentioned earlier, like if you work a full-time job in addition to this, because a lot of people do that with Etsy, you know, it's their side hustle. I think just this like instant gratification culture as well that has really started to take hold, especially in the US, is it's really hard for small businesses to compete with that level of expectation, you know?
Especially with, I think that the rise of AI also impacts every industry. But I was just with a friend over the weekend. He was like telling me that he almost bought like real quote unquote things from online that looked super real. They had a really real looking website and they had reviews. And it wasn't even a dupe. It was literally just like it was a scam. They were taking credit card information. And so I feel like that then also impacts that same community of, okay, so you have the people that are like the billionaires that are super trusted, like Amazon, like Target, Walmart, that you just know what you're going to get. And if you don't, then you get an automatic refund, and you know that the next time that you're going to buy, it's going to be better. Whereas with a small business owner, like you're going online and you're taking a risk because you've never met them before. And so you're like, I don't know really how this is going to pan out. Then it turns out to be AI. And then you're like, screw this. I'm just sticking to the large corporations because I know what I'm going to get, even though it's not exactly what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. So like, where do small businesses find themselves?
It's really hard because, like, I mean, AI ultimately is a tool, right? So it's this double-edged sword where like small business owners can use AI as a way to help build their business, like write their newsletter or like their emails and like, you know, stuff like that. It can be a really useful tool for small business owners to help you save time. But the other part of that too, that's not even mentioned, is like the artists that are getting
ripped off
by AI, where they are using their intellectual property without their permission and, you know, perpetuating that and spreading it across the web, and people, you know, using AI or using this artist's work without even realizing that they're essentially ripping off another artist's work. And so it turns into this really gray area where it's like, yes, it is helpful, but it's also incredibly damaging. And like you said, it's fueling scams. I know that like, this is somewhat unrelated, but somewhat related, like bots even. You know, like you can buy bots to take a small business if you want to. You can buy bots to like leave a bunch of comments on people's pages or negative reviews. And it's all, you know, ultimately AI generated at the end of the day. So it can be a helpful tool, but it also can be I think mostly is a evil tool in a lot of ways.
There are goods and there are evils, and it seems like we're in a place where we're lacking a lot of boundaries, and if there were some boundaries in place, that would be extremely helpful. However, with the signature of the big beautiful bill, I don't think that that's coming to fruition in the next 10 years at least, but a girl can dream. So where
I know it's the Wild West of AI out there right now. It's like the dawn of the internet, but dawn of AI. No. There's no rules, there's no regulations, there's no protections. It's just
stay safe out there.
Breaks are cut.
100%. And so obviously there's this environment that small businesses find themselves in, and small business owners are really resilient and very persistent. And for me, this is not really something that I see really greatly deterring any small business owners from being like, I'm still going to do this. But obviously you're working with a great deal of small business owners and vendors. And what is the common struggle that you hear from them?
Oh man, so many. Where do I begin? First of all of the vendors that we work with are phenomenal people. We just did our latest round of vendor onboarding in July. So we're up to 47 now, which is awesome. Love that. And just first and foremost, just the best people are small business owners and creators. Full stop. So much heart, so much resilience, so much optimism, and just the hardest working people you will ever meet are small business owners. The challenges that they face, I think, number one are the costs of running a small business. Like we mentioned earlier with like Etsy, or even like markets and stuff. Like that's probably been the biggest complaint as of recently, is because a lot of these farmers markets, a lot of people don't realize this, but the vendors pay to be there.
Oh, I did not realize
that.
It's
not always the case with like food trucks, because usually there's like a minimum, and they're kind of getting paid by people. And like if they don't meet a certain threshold, then the event usually covers the difference of that. But for the small business vendors, like the people that are setting up the tents and selling their products, you often are paying to be a part of that event. And that cost can be super expensive. Like, I won't name drop on here, but there's one particular one in Denver that a lot of my vendors have had issues with recently, simply because of the cost. I think when we were doing this event years ago, it was like, I think it was like $1,600 for like 8 to 12 events. I don't want to like say that for sure, just because this is like me based off memory from 2021. But it was a huge cost. It was our biggest investment, apart from like our tent, our signage, business cards, and like product. The investment that we put into just being at the event alone was huge. And there's no like, this particular event that I'm thinking of, they are not really willing to work with vendors on things. So like we had plants, for example, that we were selling at our booth. Colorado, weather's crazy here. There were a few events in May, for example, where like it was a full-on snowstorm, and we were like, or it was like, 20 degrees outside, and we're like, we can't have our product outside. Like we'll have a major product loss. Like, is there any way that we can reschedule for a different weekend or another time? And the response was always just like, tough. Like,
oh my God,
tough. Like you lose out on that money. And then oftentimes, like if you don't sell enough at that event, right? So say that you're paying $500 to be at an event and you don't sell $500 worth of product, then you're in the red, right? Like, I mean, like you could argue that like you're getting exposure and like people are seeing your brand, but like if you only sell $200 and you paid $300 to be there, then like that's a huge loss. That's hard. So it's tough because of like the cost of it, and then also the unwillingness of a lot of event runners and event managers being willing to work with these small businesses. So that's really, really tough. And I've heard that a lot recently, where people are just like, these events are so expensive. Like I barely break even sometimes, if not take a loss. And then, heaven forbid you get COVID or the weather is bad, or, something extenuating happens in your life where you can't make an event. Like you're just out of that. You're just taking a loss on that, essentially. So that's really tough. And then that kind of coupled with, you kind of mentioned like the big, beautiful bill, and, more so like the tariffs, I would say, is largely impacting a lot of our vendors. And people have kind of mentioned to us like, oh, well, you're in a really good spot because you only work with local vendors. And while that is true compared to, other small businesses that are importing a lot of their products, our small businesses that we work with often import those products that they're making things with, and so they have to raise their costs, or they have to take a loss on that. And so in addition to that, the other piece is people are, and I've noticed this even in the shop, are a little wary to be spending money right now. And I think it's because of the financial situation that we find ourselves in as a country as a whole. The tariffs definitely feed into that. The big, beautiful bill definitely feeds into that. But like, people are nervous about layoffs. People are nervous about losing their jobs. People are nervous about being able to pay the rent, buy groceries, basic life things. And so a lot of vendors have mentioned that attendance is really high at the events, and they have lots of people coming up to their booth and talking to them and like interested in their products. But the, I guess, sales ratio there is just getting lower and lower and lower. So it's a lot of people looking, but not necessarily buying, which is also, I mean, again, it's like, I'm here at this event, I'm promoting my business, I'm promoting my brand, but like small businesses need sales. All businesses need sales, but especially small businesses. We need sales. So when there isn't a healthy economy, that directly affects small businesses, I think, the most, especially compared to large corporations that are getting tax cuts and sometimes don't pay taxes. And, all of the benefits that those large corporations get, small businesses don't get any of that whenever there's economic fallout. Very rarely is there, the safety net to catch the small business owners. There's one for the banks, there's one for the large corporations, but where are, the safety nets for the small businesses when they need it?
Which is such a terrifying thought, because if we do actually fall into this recession, what does that mean for these small businesses, number one? And what does that mean for us as the consumer? And I feel like I recently saw this video about how our minds aren't really able to imagine what a society would be like beyond just capitalism. And I have really been challenging myself to think about, okay, what would society without capitalism look like? And that then would be a good question to you and like the small business community of what would that look like?
Honestly, the best way that you can fight back against capitalism is to support your local small businesses. Full stop. I know it's really hard. Honestly, I get it. And it's like, it's so hard to walk away from like the convenience aspect of it. Like Amazon, I can get this thing and it'll be here tomorrow and I don't have to leave my house and it's super convenient and it's cheaper. You pay for it in other ways, but like, you know, initially it's seen as like it's the cheaper, fastest, like lowest effort option. And like I get it, people are busy. I even joke with like other small business owners that we work with, like sometimes it's inevitable. You got to use the big giant Amazon. But I challenge people to go out of their way to support their local small businesses, not only because of the reasons that we mentioned earlier, that it's directly funding those people and those businesses rather than the large corporations, but it starts a pattern. And if you can, you know, support your local businesses, go out of your way to support local businesses, especially going into the holidays. It's like, it's July, I know, or August. It's August. So we're still far out, but like holidays are right around the season. When you're doing your holiday shopping, try to support local as much as you can. It really makes the biggest impact on your local community if you're able to do that. And it helps, frankly, pull back some of the funding that these large corporations and monopolies are getting from you by supporting these larger corporations instead of small businesses. So it does help to affect the bottom line of larger corporations if you choose to support small, but then it also makes such a big impact for the people and families that need your support more now than ever.
Yeah. And I feel like, again, if we are going into a recession, I'm no economist, but signs are pointing to yes. To me, I think about, okay, what do people choose to save money on and how do we choose to save that? And I know that price gouging is illegal, or at least should be illegal. We don't really know how that works with eggs nowadays. But I feel like with our dependence on these larger corporations, like Kroger, for instance, on food, we then are subjected to their pricing. Whereas if you were to go to a farmer's market or a small business and buy individually, and like what you said of having small business support and going out of your way and making an effort, it is a conceded effort. But at the end of the day, our economy is never going to rebound fully if we continue pouring into the cup of the billionaires. And so that for me is a concept that is just, it seems obvious, but it is just, what is the easiest thing to do for consumers? So then that brings me to the question of, for small businesses, how do you make it a convenience?
You know, that's what we're really that's what me and my business are working on right now. Like, how do we make it easy for people to support local? So we opened up our shop and, you know, we're working towards having an online storefront, hopefully in the next year or so, launching our e-commerce, but just making it easy for people is hard.
Yeah.
Having the reach, having the, I guess, audience, the community to be able to build in that convenience is really difficult. And it's also really difficult, I think, especially for small businesses, because we also often don't have access to funding, especially, Black and minority, Native-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. A lot of these small businesses, yes, there are grants. They're difficult to get. There are, SBA loans, but I mean, we even tried to go that route, and it's difficult. You need to still reach like certain financial
benchmarks
levels in order to qualify for small business loans. So a lot of the times this is all self-funded. Like our business itself was like grassroots self-funded Kickstarter, because so many banks just like don't want anything to do with small business owners. And so it's really challenging to build the infrastructure of convenience when you're limited with your financial resources. And so I think focusing on marketing is where we have been focusing a lot of our effort through fun videos and ways that, you know, promote our business and let people be known that like we exist and there's others like us out there, you know. Just search like local small business near me, local plant shop, local grocery store, local, you know, whatever you're looking for. Just make an effort to look for your small businesses and, you know, leave them good reviews if you have a good experience with a small business. Good reviews, cannot hype it up enough. Oh my gosh, it helps small businesses so much. So like tell your friends, tell your mom, leave a good review, tell your neighbor, go out of your way to support your community and find local shops and small businesses. Go to your local farmers market, you know, buy your produce, be like intentional about your produce, or even start growing your own produce or your own garden, you know, even if you have like a small little herb planter in your windowsill in your apartment, you know, like that's something. And so, you know, I think there's the cost and the convenience factor that comes with Amazon, and then there is the ethics and the quality that you support when you support small. Like even with produce, like there's so many chemicals and things that they spray on our food all the time. If you go to a farmer's market and you buy your produce and you are like buying it directly from that farmer, like it's just a different experience, and the quality is so much better because it's not being shipped halfway across the country. You know, like that farmer had their harvest and they drove it, you know, maybe an hour or two at most to sell it the farmer's market, you know. So you're supporting, you know, local farms and small businesses, but you're also just getting healthier and higher quality products that way. So there's benefits to that too.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to go back to what you had said about leaving reviews. And I remember when I was in Europe, I was like, I don't have any euros. Like I can't tip you. And he's like, I don't want you to tip me. I want you to give me a review. And I was like,
yeah, tipping culture is not a thing.
No, not a thing. And I feel like what has been a detriment to so many businesses and tipping culture in general has been the toast tablet. Fuck toast tablets. I'm so over it. If I have to see another, do you want to tip 30, 40, 50%?
Just just pay your employees a living wage, you know, which on the other end of that, again, it can be difficult, especially if you are self-funded. And like, I mean, we even have that experience right now. Like we need help, but like I need more hands in the shop so I can continue to build my business. But like financing an employee, especially when you don't have access to like employment grants or employment loans, that can be tricky. But I love how so many like restaurants in particular, I've noticed, are changing over models to just providing like base pay that is fair and not having the expectation of tipping. And like it's very much like that in Europe. Like my dad, he was from Switzerland. My whole family on his side still live over there. And so I've spent a lot of time there, and it's just a different expectation, but it's also because the businesses, they pay their employees a living wage. So like it's nothing against like that they hate tipping, but like they don't depend on it the way that American servers do, where like American servers, you're not even getting paid minimum wage. Like I think a lot of people don't even realize that either, where it's like, I remember when I was serving, this was a long time ago, but like I was making like $7 an hour, sometimes $5 an hour. And then the expectation is that your tips bring you up to that $15 an
insane.
hour minimum wage, which like even $15 an hour for minimum wage is like kind of wild,
Yeah.
especially in this economy.
Yeah.
Come on. But it's just it's not expected, I think, over there, because people are able to survive comfortably on their serving job.
Yeah.
They don't have to, work for those tips quite as hard, because like there's the expectation that like they're doing their job and like they're going to get paid, and I like that a lot of restaurants are starting to move to that model, not only because like I just want to see people be supported and be able to like afford the cost of living and be able to like buy groceries and pay their rent,
Be financially stable.
but also it helps take that strain off of like us, the consumers too, where it's like we're also under financial strain, and there's this now expectation of like 20% is like minimum in terms of tipping. And it's like that can be really hard on the consumer as well, when you're like, I'm barely making enough to be able to pay my rent and my baseline expenses, but now I'm tipping 20-30% on sometimes things that aren't even service industry, and I think that expectation is weighing people down. And so I think if we can find a way to just be able to provide living wages for people without the expectation of tip culture, it would be great for all sides.
Yeah. And again, just like the leaving a review of, if you are like a small business or a restaurant, like everyone loves a review. I'm sure everyone would love to just get a review. I mean, the servers obviously would love to get paid, and that comes at the hand of the restaurant, but the restaurant, if it has no business, then it can't pay them. But yeah, it's a full circle sort of ideology of how consumer culture and also like corporate culture works in terms of the hierarchy and scheme of how money actually flows through. And it's such a wild concept in my brain for me to wrap my head around, that small businesses are kind of just hung out to dry. So I worked in the realm of venture capital. A few of my friends have worked in the realm of private equity, and to me, obviously, there were businesses that would come to us and we're just like, this isn't like VC backable, this isn't scalable. And I feel like that's the realm of small business. And so you have private equity for these established companies that need to be acquired or can be acquired to continue to grow. And then you have these companies that are super, super small, very tiny seed level businesses that then can grow into multi-million-dollar companies. But then you have these small businesses that are the lifeline to a society and the lifeline to a community, yet receive nothing.
Yeah, we need more VC for small businesses. We looked into that too. And like there are VC options, and like, but again, it's a time suck.
Yeah.
Like, no shade to VC, because like it does help finance a lot of like really amazing businesses, but like we put it out there for a few different VC firms for capital that way, and like the amount of time that it takes to just fill in like the profile and the application and have that submitted and have it be reviewed and have them come back to you, and then like I mean, it's complicated too, because it's like, on the one hand, obviously investors are going to want to see a certain level of revenue. They're going to want to see a certain level of growth before they're going to be wanting to invest and back you. On the other hand, similar to what we talked about before, where like, if you don't have the time, energy, or resources to build your business, or even just the time to be able to wait it out and be resilient and like build those numbers to be able to generate that funding. Again, there's so many small businesses that just won't get the funding because it's a mom who's like, I want to start a face painting company, but like I've never done face painting before. I'm self-taught. I don't have any clients. I don't have any backed revenue. All I have is like my savings account and like a hope and a prayer and a dream. And like, this is what I want to build for myself. But then, there's no there's no financial backing that will put you in a strong position to get venture capital or to get a small business loan, because banks and venture capital is all about numbers, right? It's all about like, what have you profited? What have you netted? Like, you know, where are you at financially? How are we going to make money off of your business too? And that's really hard to show when you're, you know, in year one. And you're like, I have this idea. I think it's
hey,
great,
y'all, you're just going to have to trust me.
How do I get funding? That was the thing, too. When I was starting my business, I was like, that was just such an uphill battle, too, of just learning. Like, where do I get funding? Like, where are these resources available?
Yeah.
You're constantly researching. You're constantly having to figure things out on your own, like troubleshoot, problem solve on your own. And there aren't a ton of resources that guide businesses through, like, this is what you have to do. You have to get your sales tax license. You have to get, you know, your business license. You have to, you know, this is how you can apply for funding. This is how you can qualify for funding. It's not, there aren't very many resources that just like lay it out for you. So it took me a lot of time. I'll speak for myself. It took me a while to figure out, like, how can I get funding for this? How can I get backing for this? Like, how can I make this happen without, you know, 5 years of, profit records, you know, showing that we've had
success,
you know, sizable and substantial success over the last like 5 years, when your business is like, when I was looking for funding, my business was 2 years old. A lot of the time businesses, they want at least 3 years, you know, of financial records. So it's just like, there's so many hoops and hurdles to jump through. And sometimes I feel like it's almost intentional to like get people to give up, you know, like, I don't know how else to take that, I guess, besides like the obstacles are in the way and the lack of transparency is in the way, because I think a lot of these banks and financial backers are like kind of banking on businesses giving up, you know, and not following through or filling out the like 10 venture capitalist applications and the like 10 bank loan applications. And then, you know, on top of that, to like spend the time filling all of that out and then just get rejection. Like, it takes a lot, like we said earlier, it takes a lot of resilience to like just continue to have the faith and just move forward, hoping that like the financing will come and like you'll be able to build your business, because it's really hard to build a business without capital.
100%.
Like, without money, businesses fail all the time. Even really great ones, they fail all the time simply because of a lack of capital.
And then that brings me into my next question of, okay, so you have a small business, and majority of the time small business owners don't want to scale to like massive corporate levels. They just want to stay a small business. They just want to do what's serving to them. And so
they want to be able to send their kid to camp. They want to be able to like pay their grocery bill.
It's not, to me, it seems like it's not an industry that's looking to become lucrative. And I feel like that is something to so many Americans of, why would I get involved with that then? I want to be on the cover of Forbes 30 Under 30. I want to be the next billionaire. Like, where's the disconnect? Like, what do you think about that revelation?
Well, I think that there's a lot of corporate greed, and I think that capitalism really like fuels that perspective. Period. And so
mic drop, we're done.
Mic drop, we're done here. End of podcast. No, but I mean, like, it's I think a lot of the times, like, we see these like hugely successful billionaires and like, you know, naturally people's instinct is going to be like, oh, I want that life. Like, I want the private jet. I want this like, you know, billionaire lifestyle where I can have whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, and I think that type of mentality is just, it's fueling greed, especially corporate greed. And so, yeah, there's so many people in corporate who like out there for somebody with like a ton of money who has a ton of venture capital that wants a business idea. Invest in small businesses, invest in the ones that people don't invest in, you know, because there's so much potential there that just goes unseen, because people don't want to bother with the little guy. There's too much risk there.
Surely the billionaire will be fine. Hey guys,
the billionaire, you'll be okay. You know, like you can help us out, you know, help out all of the, instead of like pulling up the ladder behind you, like help other people, you know, continue to build their lives and like just make this world a better place. Like, I know that sounds super cheesy, but like, if you have the resources and the capital to be able to help small business owners build something, you would be helping in incredible ways. Not only like helping small business owners, but helping to bring these businesses to the surface that could make such a huge impact, and like a huge impact in our culture, you know, just like shifting our mindset away from large corporations and turning our priority and our focus towards supporting our local economies. Like that's a huge untapped market right there.
100%. And I recently had someone on the podcast that was comparing like the human species, like we are animals, to animal species. And animals, like monkeys, for instance, when they get caught hoarding bananas, like if they're not sharing with the rest of their group, we study them of why is that a failed ecosystem? Why is that a failed environment? Yet in the US and in the world, we're like, congrats, billionaires, you earned it. Like, girl, give it back.
You made
give
it.
it back.
Help others. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just, at least that's my mentality with my business is like, my goal is not to be this like huge billionaire, Fortune 500, you know, small business winner. My goal is to help support the little guys and to help build up the small brands and to help people realize that you can support local and you can support your local communities and economies by supporting local small businesses. And so my goal is less about like making a ton of money and more shining the spotlight on businesses that deserve to have the spotlight shine on them, but are overlooked because of, you know, circumstances outside their control.
100%. And I feel like we've focused a lot on what the negative sides of this environment that we find ourselves in, and less on the positives. And I feel like there's so many amazing, beautiful, perfect things that come out of small businesses. And what do you think that those are?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I mean, the range of small businesses is so vast. I think that there's just so much potential. Like I can't even speak to like where that could go, just because there's so much potential there, that so much amazing change could happen if we started focusing on small businesses rather than large corporations.
And I think that that's also something that is super exciting to me. Like I feel like with what we can imagine what the future would be like, of if we lived in a society of anti-capitalism, if we lived in a society of small businesses, what would that look like? Like you're walking on the street and you want to go get your groceries. Like, how does that work? What would that look like? What does that feel like?
I mean, it's been studied. I haven't really touched on this at all, but my background is actually in architecture. So I worked as an architect for 10 years before I started my business, doing the corporate grind, the 9 to 5. Yep, totally. Love women in STEM. More women need to get into the sciences and the engineering fields. We need more women in construction, 100%. We need more women
everywhere,
just in roles, just in leadership roles in general across the board. I think that the way that we will create a better, more equitable society for everybody is through female leadership.
Period. Done. Okay. Podcast
Period.
over.
Again, we're done with the podcast. We don't need to say anymore. No, I think women are so good at not only working with one another and like compromise. I think that's a huge strength that women possess. Not saying that like men aren't able to compromise, but I think it's more of a natural skill that women tend to have, not only because of just like our gender, but also our programming because of our gender. We're kind of like programmed from a young age to be
accommodating, pleaser,
accommodating, and like work with everybody and like share and, share our things and ourselves and, everything. And so I think women in general are just much more willing to have difficult conversations and listen in those difficult conversations, and take that feedback in a way that they can, collaborate together. It's much more of a mindset of collaboration rather than like individualism. And I think women have been written off and underestimated for far too long. And I think now is the time for female leadership to stand up and really show that there's a different way of doing things outside of patriarchy. And like, I think often the idea of like, if we dismantle patriarchy, then that just means that women are the ones in charge. Whereas if you look at historically, because like, I think people forget this too, that like we started with matriarchal societies. We started from matriarchy and descended into patriarchy. And when we have studied, unfortunately, and I mean, it's not just patriarchy hurting women; it hurts men too. I think like the expectation, yes,
they're doing it to them themselves.
Exactly, and it just perpetuates upon itself. And if you look historically back on, civilizations throughout history and how civilizations were organized and constructed before the time of patriarchy, they were matriarchal societies, and that does not mean that women were the only ones making the decisions or power mongering. If anything, it was much more of a community based model for civilization. Women were kind of seen as advisors and leaders, yes, within the community. But it didn't mean that like men did not have leadership in those societies and that men were not seen as valuable. If anything, it was the opposite. It was much more focused on all of the strengths that we can work on building together and building, society and community based on our shared strengths, rather than being like, because you are born this way, you're here. And because you're born this way, you're here. And like, you're automatically, calling all of the shots and like creating this power dynamic where, certain groups benefit and other groups suffer. Exactly. And I mean, that's been perpetuated throughout history with people of color. That's been perpetuated throughout history with, indigenous people. That's been perpetuated throughout history with minorities, women, all, the gay community, the trans community. Like, I think especially there's this like rhetoric lately that like, this is something that's unnatural, but like we've seen throughout history and throughout nature that it's not. Gay and trans people and animals exist and they have existed, since the beginning of time. And so it's just this fear mongering and designed to keep specific people in charge and specific people suffering at the hands of the few that are in charge. And so I think if women can, step into these leadership roles and start changing the way that we think about things and start changing the way that we operate, I think it can make a huge impact, not only for women and minorities, but also for men. I think it could be very helpful for men as well to have more female leadership.
And I think that it's like, we can learn a lot from nature, like what I just said with the monkeys and the hoarding of bananas. Like, nature's diverse. Nature has so many different aspects that keep it all in check. As soon as one of those gets overrun, then the entire ecosystem fails. And so we fail to consider that as humans, that we are actually a part of an ecosystem, that we are a part of this planet and a part of this earth. And I feel like there's so many missing aspects that relate to that in terms of our human experience of how we find business or how we purchase things or anything that falls in that realm.
Yeah. And, nature was a big part of the inspiration for this project. Shoot, I am like, my brain is totally melting right now. But,
no, you're fine.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm citing this
No,
correctly.
you're good. I appreciate it.
So it's called biophilic design,
Okay.
which is something that I have always been inspired by since architecture school, honestly. But it's basically the concept of incorporating natural elements, like light materials, plants, views, and just like nature in general, incorporating those things into the built environment, because it's the theory that, like, you know, we ourselves are part of nature, and we have evolved from nature. And so there's been all sorts of studies about there's been all sorts of studies done about basically how nature has a profound impact on not only our physical health, but our mental health. And so they have started incorporating more natural elements into design, especially in places like hospitals, for example, using certain color palettes, including greenery, including windows with views. It's shown to increase the healing time. Same with, schools. There's ways to incorporate nature and plants, not only in a way that helps filter your air and, can provide a lot of like really great benefits, but also just visually seeing the greenery helps to calm our nervous system and helps it make it easier for kids to be in a mindset where they are able to be more receptive to learning. It helps activate that part of our brain. And so I very much like the idea of taking that concept and integrating it into spaces, which funny enough is kind of like the plants have found their way in. It's like we very much are like a home body garden shop where we have a lot of elements for your home and a lot of design elements for your home, but there's also this green aspect to it. And it happens every single day. People come into the shop and they're like, I love this place. I want to live here. It's so relaxing. It's so calming. And it's because of the nature. It's because of the plants. It's because of the integration of the natural elements. And I think it's also, just the like high quality handmade products that are just really captivating. But that aside, I think incorporating natural elements into our daily lives and finding ways to reconnect with nature is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like there's so many ways that we can do that. And I love what you're doing. And I love that you're able to help other small businesses. And how would you like describe your business, or how people can get involved with your business if they want to be a part of what you're doing?
Absolutely. We are always looking for people to get involved with this. I very much believe that it's a movement. It's a community. It's not just our vendor community, but it's also like a consumer community. It's a conscious, thoughtful consumer community. And it's also it's all about building relationships. And so if you want to be a part of this, find us, come into the shop. Sorry,
No, you're fine.
Come into the shop, come talk with me, come see what we're all about. Come take a look at our products. You can, if you want to be a vendor with us, you can apply on our website. It's just sagespade.com. There's a drop-down menu where you can apply to be a vendor with us. We're constantly bringing in new vendors. Our next round of onboarding will be in October, right before the holidays, so just in time. We also do pop-up markets on the second Sunday of the month from June through September, and we haven't announced this yet, so this is kind of like launching right here, but we're adding another market into the mix. We're going to do a small business Saturday pop-up market, little holiday market. So that'll be the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Saturday after Black Friday. We set up tents in our parking lot, and we have local products and live music and food trucks. And speaking of Power Cone from earlier, he always thinks of like some sort of special soft serve ice cream treat for the occasion. But, if you want to pop up with us, we don't charge crazy prices. We just charge $50 per day for you to pop up. And that just goes towards our event, insurance and event insurance, permit and our marketing efforts. So that we just take that money and we put it towards promoting the event and making sure that, we can have a fun time for everybody.
That's awesome.
If you want to be a vendor, you can shoot us an email too. It's just info@sagespade.com. We're still looking for vendors for our September event and for our holiday market. So if you're out there and you want to join us, hit us up.
Reach out. Oh my God.
You reach out. Don't be a stranger. Come on down. And then the other way that you can be involved is we also do workshops and classes. So sometimes they're plant and terrarium workshops, like repotting workshops. We do tipsy terrariums on the first Friday of the month. So it comes with a drink coupon and it's fun for parties, birthdays, or we also do private events. So if you have a bachelorette party or a bridal shower or just a friend's birthday or whatever it may be, go to our website. You can either schedule workshops there or you can reach out to us and schedule private events. So that's always a really great way to be involved. And sometimes our vendors also teach workshops. So we occasionally have a good craft workshop. We just had one recently that was like a stained glass workshop that was super fun. We've had candle workshops. We are going to have a bonsai workshop at the end of this month. So we always have fun stuff going on. So if you're looking for ways to connect with your community and learn something fun, check us out and sign up for one of our workshops.
I love that. I love what you're doing. This is such an amazing thing. And I'm so excited that you get to be so involved in the community and promote other businesses while also simultaneously promoting yours. Like, it has to be a pretty difficult step to take back from architecture to take on something in the realm of entrepreneurship and the realm of small business.
Yeah. There's a lot of correlations between the two in a lot of ways. It's a lot of like juggling a lot of different things, managing a lot of different things. I mean, even getting the event permit. So it's like, it's like getting a building permit, kind of. Not as involved, but like, you're still working with the municipality and you're submitting documents and like, getting things approved. And
that's funny.
So there's definitely a lot of like skills that I learned from my previous career that I get to carry over with me. But a large part of it is just like being really organized and like organizing all the vendors, organizing all of the product, all of that. I'm really grateful for the skills that I learned in my corporate life because it, helps me build this really awesome community now.
Amazing. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. And
of course, thanks for having me, and thanks for starting this podcast and shining light on all of these amazing small business owners and especially women small business owners.
Well, I'll have to come into the shop sometime. I'm literally leaving for Hawaii tomorrow, but
oh my gosh, awesome!
As soon as I get back, I would love to go to the bonsai event or one of the other events, or maybe one of your just come by the shop. Who knows? But the
bonsai one that's going to be August 31st.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't know if you'll be in town by then, but if you are, check it out.
Amazing. Perfect.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Consider the Source podcast. If you're not already, please make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to check us out on YouTube because the videos do get posted there every Wednesday. And then if you haven't already, make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. Make sure that you're following me on social media at Sarah Smiles Network everywhere. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and make sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Consider the Source podcast. Bye.